श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की, मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की, मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, भक्ति देवी की, तुलसी महारानी की, हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri 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 Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru, Srila Prabhupada ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari 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 Bol. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Sorry, Prabhu? On the phone? You want to know the... Oh, like... you just write SB 4.25.17, Prabhuji. Did you find it, Mataji? Okay. Oh, okay. You want to bring it up on your phone? Yeah. Yeah, Prabhu, you can type into Google SB. Oh, okay, all right, cool. That's good. Puryastu bahyo pavane Devya druma lata kule Nadad vihangali kula Kola hala jalashaye Puryastu bahayo pavane Devya druma lata kule Nadadve hangali kula Kola hala jalashaye Puryastu bahayo pavane Devya Drumalata Kule Nadad Vihangali Kula Kola Hala Jalashaye Puryastu Bahyo Pavane Devya Drumalata Kule Nadad Vihangale Kula Kola Hala Jalashaye Puryastu Bahyo Pavane Devya Drumalata Kule Nadad Vihangali Kula Kola Hala Jalashaye Puryastu Bahyo Pavane Divya Drumalata Kule Nadad Vihangale Kola Kola Hala Jalashaye. You want to try, Prabhu? Puryastu Bahyo Pavane Divya Drumalata Kule Nadad Vihangali Kula Kola Hala Jalashaye Puryaha of that town to then Bahya Upavane in an outside garden Divya very nice Druma trees Lata creepers Akule filled with Nadad vibrating Vihanga birds Ali bees Kula groups of Kola Hala humming Jala Ashaye with a lake. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. On the outskirts of that city were many beautiful trees and creepers encircling a nice lake. Also surrounding that lake were many groups of birds and bees that were always chanting and humming. Purport: since the body is a great city, there must be various arrangements such as lakes and gardens for sense enjoyment. Of the various parts of the body, those which incite sexual impulses are referred to here indirectly. Because the body has genitals, when the living entity attains the right age, be he man or woman, he becomes agitated by the sex impulse. As long as one remains a child, he is not agitated by seeing a beautiful woman. Although the sense organs are present, unless the age is ripe, there is no sex impulse. The favorable conditions surrounding the sex impulse are compared here to a garden or a nice solitary park. When one sees the opposite sex, naturally the sex impulse increases. It is said that if a man in a solitary place does not become agitated upon seeing a woman, he is to be considered a brahmachari. But this practice is almost impossible. The sex impulse is so strong that even by seeing, touching, or talking, coming into contact with, or even thinking of the opposite sex, even in so many subtle ways, one becomes sexually impelled. Consequently, a brahmachari or sannyasi is prohibited to associate with women, especially in a secret place. The Shastras enjoin that one should not even talk to a woman in a secret place, even if she happens to be one's own daughter, sister, or mother. The sex impulse is so strong that even if one is very learned, he becomes agitated in such circumstances. If this is the case, how can a young man in a nice park remain calm and quiet after seeing a beautiful young woman? Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanshcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanshcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Vir Krishna Goswami Niti Namine Namo Hansanikasaya Prabhupada Priyayate Shuddhi Sutradhanishtabhyam Tasya Vakyanuvadane Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Giram Yit Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurutina Taranam Paramanandamatavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25, where Srila Narad Muni is giving instructions to Prachina Barhishat by recounting an allegorical story of a king named Puranjana. So Narad Muni has already described how Puranjana refers to the living entity which resides within this material body. It has an unknown friend known as Avigyat Sakha, which refers to the Paramatma or the super soul. It travels from place to place looking for ways to satisfy him, to live comfortably, but everywhere he finds disappointment and insufficiency. Then Narad Muni goes on to describe how Puranjana comes across a city which has 9 gates. It's guarded by walls, canals, towers, various lakes, etc., etc. So this represents the material body. The city that Narad Muni is talking about represents the material body which has 9 outlets: 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 2 eyes, 1 mouth, and 2 hidden senses. And we've got the skin and the hair, etc., etc. The houses and floors in this city, they are made and decorated with various kinds of brilliant jewels like rubies, sapphires, diamonds, various other jewels. Now this capital part of the city refers to the heart in the material body, which is the center of all the desires and lustful activities. And these lustful activities are represented by the jewels. Just like Sydney is very huge. It has got many suburbs, but the most influential part of Sydney is the city, right? Especially the area around Darling Harbour and Circular Quay. That's the place where people are most ambitious. They have the most desires, lustful propensities, prone to commit even criminal activities to satisfy their aspirations. Now, in this verse particularly, Narad Muni is describing how the city is surrounded by very beautiful gardens and serene lakes, which are occupied by a lot of birds and bees who are constantly chanting and humming. Are they chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? No. They're chanting the song of their desires. And inside the material body, this part refers specifically to the place which incites sensual desires. The biggest weapon in Maya's arsenal is the allurement of sex desire or sensual enjoyment. See, we need to understand that this is why so many spiritual practitioners, they can very swiftly refrain from alcohol, drugs, meat eating, onion garlic, gambling, money. But the one thing that 99.99% spiritual practitioners struggle with is overcoming sexual desires. Excuse me. And we also need to understand that for the time we as a soul have been in this material world, we might not have eaten meat in every life. We might not have drunk alcohol. We might not have gambled in every life. But the one activity which we've all done since the time we have come into this material world is engaging in sensual pleasures. And therefore, that's one sanskara which has become second nature to the conditioned soul on account of having it done multiple times. So Srila Prabhupada mentions how until a certain age, there is no impulse in a man or woman. This is why it is often said that a child's consciousness is so uncontaminated that it's almost godlike. However, as the child grows up, Maya's hands malign the consciousness entirely. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Dev describes how the unborn child, still in his or her mother's womb, is begging the Supreme Personality of Godhead to release him from the womb, because it's a very terrible condition. But at the same time, he is happy to endure all that suffering because he knows what will happen once he comes out of his mother's womb. Lord Kapila Dev says, Soham vasannapi vibho bahu dukkha vasam garbhan na nirjigamishe bahirandha kupe yatro payatam upasarapati deva maya mithya matir yad anusansriti chakrametat. That my Lord, I'm living in a terrible condition here. My body is being burnt by the gastric fire of my own mother. So many insects are biting me. I'm feeling suffocated. Imagine like if somebody packs you up in a plastic wrap for 9 months. You can't breathe, you can't do anything. And just next to the place you're lying, there's the bag of urine and stool. So it's a very terrible condition. Although the mother feels very happy when the child kicks from inside, but that kick is not some happy reciprocation. It is suffocated inside. So the living entity says that although, my Lord, I'm living in an extremely terrible condition. Indeed, it is more severe than the worst of the hellish worlds. Yet, I do not wish to depart. Na nirjigamishe bahirandha kupe. I do not wish to depart from my mother's womb. Why? Because I know the moment I step out, your external energy, Deva Maya, she will capture me. And when she will capture me, she will infest me with this disease of false identification, mithya matir, which is the very reason for coming back into a mother's womb repeatedly. It's the mercy and compassion of Krishna that we don't remember what it was like to be in our mother's womb for 9 months. Otherwise, we would all go insane. So all those unpleasant experiences, by the mercy of the Lord, they are removed from our subconscious mind. So as such, Maya has various methods to penetrate our consciousness, but the easiest way in is lust. Because in that case, Maya doesn't have to do much labor. Because of by virtue of our habits and conditioning, we rather help her destroy us. This is precisely why in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has identified lust to be the greatest enemy of the soul. Not just the conditioned soul, even for the soul which is in knowledge and endeavoring for spiritual perfection. Krishna says, Avritam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairena kama rupena konteya dushpurena nalena cha. Jnanino nitya vairena. Even for the living entity in knowledge, this lust is a very big danger and a very common point of fall down. We can take King Vishwamitra, for example. He left his realm, all of his luxuries to do penances, and he meditated for no less than 60,000 years, performing so much austerities. Yet one celestial woman, Menaka, ruined all that tapa, all that determination within a few minutes. All that determination reduced to dust within a few minutes, which he was accumulating for 60,000 years. 60,000 years of celibacy gone. So we need to understand that lust is like a snake that we harbor in our house. Whenever it feels agitated, we give it some milk in the hope that this agitation will go away. But at every next opportunity, it will try to bite you. Even if you remove its fangs, it can't bite you, but it can still devour you. There is a very popular case of a European woman. I'm pretty sure it's at least 15 years back. She had a pet anaconda in her house. She had been taking care of it, feeding it for almost 10 years. But after a while, she noticed some weird behavioral changes. Every night, the anaconda would slip into her bed and wrap itself around her, and after a few minutes, leave. Now, initially, she thought that maybe it was her loving pet's way of affection. But when she consulted a professional, what she heard was horrifying. Every night, the anaconda was taking measurements of her body because it was planning to eat her alive in the next few days. So this is why Krishna calls lust as Mahashano, or the all-devouring sinful enemy of the soul. And Krishna therefore doesn't recommend Arjun to deal with lust. He orders him to slay and kill this lust. Evam buddhe param buddhva sanstabhyatmanam jahi shatrum mahabaho. Slay this enemy, Arjuna, kama rupam durasadam, because it is insatiable. No matter how much you try to satisfy it, it will never be satisfied. So Krishna is instructing Arjuna that first of all, stop identifying yourself with your mind. You are not your mind. You are not your thoughts. Then, with the help of spiritual intelligence, make this mind steady. Make it steady. Make it this agility of the mind, get rid of it. And when your intelligence is spiritualized, then you can conquer and slay this enemy known as lust. But how do we spiritualize our intelligence? Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regularly attending Srimad Bhagavatam class and reading the scriptures, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And what is more troublesome to the heart than an incompetent intelligence which cannot drive away lustful desires? Now, one may ask that if knowledgeable men who have read the Shastras, who have gone through this entire process of reading scriptures and becoming well-versed, even if they can get bewildered, then how do we get saved? So, over here, we need to realize one thing, that by listening to lectures and reading scriptures, we go through a gradual process of cleansing our heart. We get rid of anarthas slowly and steadily. Ideally, that's how it's supposed to happen. However, it is quite possible that in provoking situations, we might not remember all these shlokas. We might not remember all the knowledge that we have gained through all these Bhagavatam classes. But as they say, desperate times call for desperate measures. So in such a situation, we should desperately chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Internally praying that, O Radharani, O Krishna, I am not strong enough to resist this temptation. I will succumb to it. But this is the trick of Maya Devi, and Maya Devi is subordinate to you. And you have promised in Bhagavad Gita, Maameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Or as His Holiness Loknath Goswami Maharaj says, Nameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. So Krishna, I take shelter of your holy name because it's non-different from you. So please save me. And that's it. Job done. This is why Srila Narottam Das Thakur, in his beautiful literature, Prem Bhakti Chandrika, he says, Apani palai be sab shuniya govinda rava siha rave jena kari gana. That all these enemies, lust, greed, envy, pride, anger, they will all run away in fear by hearing the sound vibration of Lord Govinda's name. Apani palai be sab. They will run away without any extraneous effort. Shuniya Govinda Rava. By hearing Govinda's name. Siha Rave Jena Kari Gana. Just like the animals of a forest flee in fear by hearing the roar of a lion. There's also a very beautiful prayer in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit, Madhya Leela, 22nd chapter, wherein the living entity is describing how he is working for these lustful desires. He's like an employee working for these lustful desires. And they show no mercy, absolutely no mercy to him. And there is no limit to their orders. And at the same time, the living entity is not even least shameful. He does not want to give up doing that job. But after a while, when the intelligence is awakened, the living entity does not want to do that job. And it wants to take the fearless shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, because that is how he can get saved from the atrocities of these desires. Later in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how a brahmachari and a sannyasi are forbidden to associate with women, especially in secret places. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada observed very strict rules pertaining to this. He would not entertain any private conversation, from women or even his female disciples. If they at all wished to talk to him, he would encourage them to write and send letters to him. Because he was not in favor of having any kind of private conversation. So if they were very insistent on talking to him, either they could do it in public or in the presence of their husbands. Otherwise, you just write and send letters, because that way everything is documented also. So nobody can put any false allegations on you in future. See, a very good way to master self-control is to avoid situations that require self-control. If I freeze a brick of butter for 1,000 years, it would still melt in the presence of fire, because that's its nature. And the fire's nature is to melt the butter. Therefore, it doesn't matter for how long we have been chanting and serving and executing devotional service, we should not act carefree with the senses. Unless you are Srila Haridas Thakur, then of course you can take a head-on collision with Maya Devi. This actually reminds me of a very funny instance. One reporter asked Srila Prabhupada in an interview that you keep talking about Krishna, you keep talking about the acharyas, your own spiritual master, their glories. But we are concerned with you. You have come to the US. You are bringing about a revolution. What's special about you? And Srila Prabhupada looked into his eyes and said, what's special about me is that you can leave me in a room with infinite naked women and not even a dint of agitation will happen within me. Now that is the level of a Mahabhagavat. When Sannyasi Guru Maharaj was sharing his experience from his godbrothers that for a person who becomes fixed in Krishna consciousness, for a pure devotee, there is no difference between a woman and a wooden door. What do we feel when we see a wooden door? Nothing. Right? That's what the pure devotee feels when he sees a woman. For him, the woman is as good as a wooden door. That's the kind of level that the pure devotees have. And that's how they defeat lust. But restraint and care must always be observed. Because the impulse is so strong, Srila Prabhupada mentions, even if someone is very learned, they can still get bewildered. In this regard, there is a very interesting pastime of Lord Vyasadeva and his disciple Jaimini Rishi. So Vyasadeva, one day he was instructing Jaimini Rishi to write a verse which he was going to put in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is from the 9th canto, 19th chapter. It goes something like this. Matra swarsa duhitra va na viviktasano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidwansam api karshati. Which basically means that a person should not allow himself to sit very closely or at the same level as even his mother or sister, because the senses are so strong that he may become sexually attracted. Now Jaimini Rishi, when he read that verse, he instantly opposed his Guru Maharaj. That, how is this possible? He said, no, it is quite possible. I'm actually speaking by realization. He said, see, you're my spiritual master, all respects to you, but I cannot agree with this statement. If I am in knowledge, if I know what is right, what is wrong, then how am I supposed to get bewildered? And that too, with someone as close as my mother and sister? So there was like an argument going on between Vyasadeva and Jaimini Rishi. Jaimini Rishi refused to write that verse in Bhagavatam. Now, Vyasadeva said, okay, no problem. We should take some time off. Now, after a few days, Vyasadeva took a couple of brahmacharis from the ashram and he went for a pilgrimage, leaving behind Jaimini Rishi. And he told him that, okay, I'm going, just take care of yourself, take care of the ashram. If anything happens, let me know once I come back. He said, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. You guys go on the pilgrimage and, enjoy yourselves. I'll be happy and content here. So Vyasadeva leaves with all the brahmacharis. Jaimini Rishi is alone in the ashram. He's reading all the Ved Shastras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Suddenly it starts raining. And it starts pouring, not just raining. Now after a few hours, he hears a knock on his door. So when he opens the gate, he saw his own cousin sister, and she was drenched in the rain. And she was wearing a very thin cloth over her body. So Jaimini Rishi instantly became curious. Oh, how come you were here? So she said, oh, actually I was just going somewhere and it started raining and I realized that your ashram is nearby. So can you give me a place to stay for a few hours? Now Jaimini Rishi, at first he became a bit conscious, but then he said, it's okay, she's my cousin sister. So he said, okay, you see that cottage over there? Go and lock yourself up in that cottage. Whenever you feel like leaving, just leave. Don't even inform me. Even if I come and knock on your door, don't open it. Don't open that door. She said, okay, very well. I'll just go there. I'll lock my door. No problem. Even if you ask me to open the door, I won't open it. No problem. Jaimini Rishi closed his cottage, opened all the Shastras, began reading again. But as he was reading, he was not able to get rid of that visual of her cousin sister. She was looking very beautiful, drenched, very thin cloth. It was sticking to her body. And he was just not able to concentrate on what he was reading. So after a few minutes, he just closed his book. And now, see, this is how Maya tricks you. He thought, let me ask her if she has eaten something. Let me ask her if she wants some food. So he went to her cottage, knocked on it, and asked her, do you want some food? She said, no, I'm fine, I've already eaten. So Jaimini Rishi came back. Then after a while he thought, oh, she's my cousin sister. I haven't caught up with her since so long. I want to know what's going on in the family. See, like this is how you get tricked. Then he went again. Now, she didn't open the door. She just talked to him through the door. Yeah, everyone's doing well. Yeah, my father got this business running and everything. Yeah. And then he came back. Now, Jaimini Rishi, he could not control his desires. He was like, I just want to see her once. So he went back again, and this time he asked her to open the door. She said, but you only told me that even if you asked me to open the door, I should not open it. He said, no, but it was me who gave you shelter, right? So you should obey my orders. She became very suspicious. She said, I won't open the door. Gemini Rishi started banging on the door. Open it now. She said, no, I won't open the door. Now the desires, they were practically strangling Gemini Rishi. He became so restless that he climbed the cottage, removed all the grass, and he jumped from the ceiling. Now the sister, she got very scared. She opened the door, she started running. Gemini Rishi was running behind her, and he caught her hand. The moment he caught her hand, sister transformed into Vedvyas. And then Lord, like in some versions, it is said that Lord Vedvyas, he gave a very tight slap to Gemini Rishi. And then Gemini Rishi was standing there all embarrassed with his gaze down. And then Vedvyas kept his hand on Gemini Rishi's shoulder and said, I think now it's the appropriate time to write that verse. So yeah, I mean, it might sound very absurd. Even Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport of that verse that generally nobody is sexually or sensually attracted to someone of their blood relation, like their mother or sister. But the senses are so deceptive that you can do something which you might not have even imagined. You know, like Gemini Rishi, who is more knowledgeable than Gemini Rishi? He is the disciple of Vyasadeva. He got sexually attracted to his own cousin sister. So we should not be carefree with the senses. Even if we think that we have all the right knowledge, even if we think we have all the right guidance, we should not be careless from our end. However, when one is fixed in devotional service and makes steady progress, then he loses the taste for all these lower pleasures. Param drishtava nivartate, as Krishna says. And as explained by Sri Yamunacharya of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, very beautiful verse, Yadavadhi mama cheta Krishna padara vinde navanava rasa dham nyutyatam rantum asit tadavadhi bata nari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikaraha sushtu nishtivanam cha. That now that my consciousness is fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna, navanava rasa dham nyutyatam rantum asit, I'm getting new pleasures of devotional ecstasy every single day. However, whenever I think about sexual life with a woman, tadavadhi bata nari sangame smaryamane, at once I spit at the thought of it and my lips, they curl back in distaste. So I sincerely hope and pray that neither of us come ever in contact with this terrible demon called lust. And even if we do, we should have the sword of Harinam ready in our quiver to slash its head at the very first opportunity. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Any questions, comments, feedback? Yes, Prabhu. So Prabhu, even my knowledge is a bit limited on this subject, but as far as I know, they do have genitals, they do have those organs, but they never use them. They are just simply there. Like even in Bhagavatam, there comes description of the Mahapurush, Krishna as a Mahapurush, and he also has sensual organs, but those organs are never put to use. They are just there. So this is as far as my knowledge is concerned. I would have to do a bit more research on it if they actually use it or not. But as far as I've heard, they are not put to use. So I'll come back to you on this subject. Sorry, Prabhu, could you speak a little? Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely, Prabhu. Yeah. I mean, yes. The thing is that the difference exists only in consciousness. There's a vast magnitude of difference between an ant's consciousness and the consciousness of Lord Brahma. But to think that they are absolutely immune to Maya would be a mistake. Because as it is mentioned in the verse, even if somebody is very learned, and if we talk about learned people, Brahmaji's entire body is made of buddhi tattva. We have this much buddhi. His entire body is made of buddhi tattva. And in the past, even he got bewildered. So the moral of the story is we should not act carefree. Any? Hmm. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Mataji. Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu, you'd have to speak a little louder. I'm not able. You'd have to speak a little louder. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that, Prabhu. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, feedback? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.